After several minutes, the entire group entered the hidden realm. Inside, they found a lush, verdant mountain, teeming with trees and grasses. Nestled at its heart lay a mysterious village, encircled by majestic, snow-capped peaks. As they neared the summit, Chu Bulang, trailing behind the others, couldn't help but marvel at the village's enchanting beauty. He questioned why no monsters were in sight. Jiang remained silent, captivated by the village's serene beauty. Meanwhile, Duanfeng, with his hand resting on his waist, gazed towards the village and suggested to the group that the monsters were probably concealed within the villagers' houses. Determined to uncover them, he resolved to search each house one by one. After some time, the group made their way down the mountain and reached the village. As they walked, Duanfeng reassured everyone, assigning specific roles for the upcoming challenge. He instructed Chu Bulang to draw the enemy's attention and engage them head-on. Duanfeng would focus on dealing damage, while Xiaoke was tasked with healing. Jiang and Mu Hanqiu were to follow closely behind, ready to support as needed. He urged Jiang and Mu Hanqiu not to fall behind. The group responded with a firm acknowledgement. Within the village, a stone inscribed with the Shining World stood ominously, radiating a powerful, malevolent aura. Duanfeng, Xiaoke, and Jiang moved cautiously toward the stone. As they neared it, Duanfeng raised his hand, signaling them to halt. Sensing the stone's suspicious nature, Duanfeng warned the group to be cautious. Beside him, Xiaoke clutched her magical staff tightly with both hands. She voiced her discomfort, expressing a deep dislike for the village's ominous atmosphere, which she believed had a dark, unsettling essence. Jiang, however, stood silently, his gaze fixed on the stone, without uttering a word. Xiaoke resolved to cast a purification buff over the village. Closing her eyes, she raised her hand towards the sky, releasing a cascade of blue magic. The shimmering aura expanded, enveloping the entire village in its cleansing light. Observing the magical dust swirling around, Jiang brought his hand closer to his face and examined it with astonishment. He realized the buff was extraordinarily potent, not only clearing the mind but also greatly enhancing everyone's attributes and energy. Suddenly, a gust of wind swept through the village, and a dense cloud of smoke began to form. The sky darkened, shifting to a deep crimson hue as the town's lights flickered on. An ominous energy gathered overhead, emanating a palpable malevolence. The group approached cautiously, both shocked and on high alert. It became clear that this sinister force was radiating from the stone. Duanfeng swiftly recognized the danger and knew it spelled trouble. With a grave expression, he turned to the others and began to order them to run. Before he could finish, the stone started pulling him in, its dark energy wrapping around him. As he was being drawn into the stone, he urgently commanded the group to keep their distance and to call for reinforcements immediately, warning them that this was a dangerous mutation. A brilliant light cascaded down from above, forming a magical barrier around the town and trapping the group within. System windows materialized in front of them, displaying urgent warnings. The notifications revealed that the secret realm, once a level 30 area known as the Beautiful Town, had transformed due to a mutation. It was now ominously renamed the Village of the Dead. The secret realm had now escalated to nightmare level, with two paths to completion. Either annihilate all the undead in what was now called the Village of Light, or defeat the final boss. The system message ominously read, "The light fades, darkness flourishes, and only then will the door to the kingdom of death open." As the smoke swirled and thickened, it dispersed the group, teleporting Jiang into a house. Reading the system's update, Jiang quickly understood that the realm had mutated from a normal level directly to a nightmare level, scattering his companions across the village. Shocked and with a bead of sweat trickling down his cheek, Jiang recalled the secret realm's level 30 status and its nightmare difficulty. Realizing the peril of facing it alone at his current level, he remembered Duanfeng's advice. If separated and in danger, swiftly return to the teleportation point. Following Duanfeng's advice, Jiang swiftly made his way back to the teleportation stone. Without a moment's hesitation, he approached the wooden wall of the house and delivered a powerful kick, splintering the planks. However, instead of an exit, he found himself in a room adorned with hanging lamps and scattered coffins on the floor. Inside the room, Jiang noticed a picture of an elderly man hanging on the wall. As he scrutinized his surroundings, he concluded there was no visible exit, only coffins scattered about. This realization left him feeling perplexed. The elderly man in the portrait seemed to fix his gaze on Jiang, a faint smile spreading across his face. Jiang began to question whether this situation was merely an illusion. Baffled by the smiling old man in the photograph, Jiang was caught off guard when the lid of a nearby coffin suddenly creaked open, revealing a figure with menacing claws emerging from within. Startled by the sound, Jiang swiftly turned towards the noise, his expression reflecting confusion as he tried to make sense of the unfolding events. Several necromancers emerged from the opened coffins, fixing their gaze on Jiang. According to the system, they were formidable opponents at level 30, equipped with skills like charge, decapitate, and corrosion, among others. Their distinctive trait lay in their immunity to ordinary physical attacks. The necromancers advanced swiftly towards Jiang, poised and ready to strike. Seeing the necromancers approaching, Jiang quickly shifted into an offensive stance, raising his hand to release the poisonous mist of Little Nine. As the menacing figures drew nearer, his expression grew serious. He realized that since normal physical attacks were ineffective against them, he needed to rely on other means to prevail. Opting for poison over direct confrontation, Jiang acted swiftly as the necromancers prepared to attack. Moving with remarkable speed, he unleashed the poisonous mist of Little Nine, which quickly filled the room. Satisfied with his strategy, he swiftly exited the house, leaping onto the roof of another nearby building. Within minutes, the necromancers emerged from the house unscathed, seemingly unaffected by the poisonous mist. Standing up, Jiang stared at them intently, realizing that poison, considered a form of physical attack, had little effect on these resilient foes. Recognizing the need for magical assistance to combat them effectively, he began contemplating his next move. He urgently needed to locate Xiaoke without delay. Lost in contemplation, Little Nine materialized beside him. Clenching her fists against her chest, she fixed a hungry gaze on the necromancers. With drool dripping from her mouth, she eagerly inquired if she could consume them. Surprised by Little Nine's sudden appearance and her desire to consume the necromancers, Jiang looked at her with confusion. He asked hesitantly if she could indeed devour the necromancers, reminding her that such an act would also be classified as a physical attack. Meanwhile, the necromancers began to close in on the house. Surrounded by a potent aura, Little Nine gazed at the necromancers and confidently assured Jiang that she could consume them, finding them delicious. Jiang observed the approaching necromancers and reluctantly gave Little Nine permission to proceed with her plan. However, he cautioned her not to overexert herself in the process. Assured that Jiang would assist her if needed, Little Nine gathered momentum with a fierce, determined expression and advanced towards the necromancers. Viewing them merely as prey, Jiang watched from the rooftop, impressed by her boldness and prowess. Before the necromancers could react, Little Nine darted forward with incredible speed, slicing through their bodies, reducing them to pieces, and consuming them swiftly. Sitting on the ground afterward, she hugged her knees, placed her hands under her cheeks, closed her eyes, and smiled blissfully, savoring the meal as though in paradise. She found them exceptionally tasty. Witnessing this, Jiang was amazed. He gazed at her with a surprised expression, recalling her origin from the abyss, akin to an undead creature, both entities associated with darkness. With the divine evolution at his disposal, he realized she had the potential to mature into the abyss's mistress, whose essence far exceeded that of the necromancers. Recalling this, Jiang extended his hands towards them, and instantly, Little Nine's poisonous mist began to emanate from his body. He looked at her with a smile, knowing she could consume the necromancers. Deciding it was time for the other creatures to join in and partake of the feast as well. Jiang's body surged with potent energy as he unleashed a swarm of insects. Commanding them to scatter and remain hidden from his companions, he swiftly deployed thousands of insects that emerged and immediately launched an assault on the necromancers. The insects wasted no time in attacking and devouring their targets. A system window popped up, notifying Jiang that his spiritual pets had eliminated 3 low-level necromancers, awarding him 15,021 points. Little Nine also began devouring them, earning 4,602 points. While the insects continued their consumption, another system window appeared, congratulating Jiang on leveling up. Jumping from level 17 to level 18, Jiang received an increase of 1 point in each attribute and gained 10 potential points. Re-entering the house, he extended one hand to the side and clenched his other fist, examining it with a smile, marveling at how quickly it all happened. In mere seconds, he accumulated over 500,000 experience points, swiftly leveling up. He considered the secret realm to be a perfect paradise, tailored just for him. With the necromancers cleared from the house, Jiang turned his attention to investigating the peculiar photograph of the old man. Previously smiling, the old man's expression now turned to one of terror and fear. Jiang approached the photo, rested his hands on his waist, and inquired with a smile why the old man's demeanor had changed so drastically. Little Nine appeared and examined the photograph, informing Jiang that everything outside had been consumed. Jiang gestured towards the photo with his thumb and complimented Little Nine for her good work. With a smile, he asked her to take a look at the photo and see if she could also devour it. Upon hearing Jiang's suggestion, Little Nine examined the photo with a hungry gaze. The old man, sensing her intent, grew even more fearful and began trembling uncontrollably. Suddenly, the photo of the old man exploded into pieces, leaving both Jiang and Little Nine in shock. They were left wondering what had just transpired. A system window then appeared, indicating they had successfully scared off the level 35 elite Death Guardian. As a reward, the system awarded them 8,701 experience points. The shattered pieces of the photo littered the ground, leaving Jiang and Little Nine feeling somewhat disheartened as they examined them. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the village, a bow-wielding figure struck a necromancer in the face. It was none other than Duanfeng. Surrounded by several necromancers, Duanfeng gripped his bow tightly with both hands, gritting his teeth in determination. With a forceful swing, he struck one of the necromancers. Another tried to surprise him with an attack, but Duanfeng reacted swiftly, using the bow's sharp string to slice its hand. Feeling fortunate to have his longbow as a weapon, Duanfeng acknowledged that without it, dealing with these undead creatures would have been difficult. Concern weighed on him, particularly for Jiang Chen, who was not yet even level 30. Duanfeng dreaded the possibility of something going terribly wrong and wondered how he would explain it to his superiors if it did. Lost in thought, Duanfeng was startled by a system window appearing in the sky, notifying him that his teammate had successfully eliminated a lower-level Spectre and a formidable level 35 Guardian. The reward amounted to 12,161 points. As Duanfeng lifted his head and read the notification, shock and awe crossed his face. Duanfeng began to tremble, his mind racing with questions about what was happening and who was behind it. Suddenly, a horde of necromancers emerged and started pursuing him relentlessly. Gripping his bow tightly with one hand, he fled in earnest, teeth clenched and face set with determination. Amidst the chase, he grimly recalled that this secret realm had undergone a dangerous mutation. He puzzled over who could swiftly dispatch so many monsters. Concluding that the culprit must be formidable, he initially considered Chubulang, but dismissed the idea due to his passive physical abilities. Then he briefly entertained the possibility of Xiaoke, but ruled her out too. As a mage, she could restrain necromancers, but not eliminate them so swiftly. He quickly eliminated Jiang as a suspect due to his low level and his focus on poison and growth abilities, which would be ineffective against the undead. With a surprised expression, Duanfeng looked ahead and wondered if Mu Hanqiu could be the one responsible for the swift monster kills. He wasn't certain of her strength in combat. The necromancers closed in on him steadily, prompting him to sprint even faster. With someone on the team capable of swiftly defeating monsters, he believed there was hope to rescue the others in time. He urged Jiang to hang on a bit longer. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the village, someone placed a hand over a shoulder wound. The person in question was severely injured, none other than Mu Hanqiu. Behind her, a horde of necromancers pursued relentlessly. Her body bore numerous scratches, and she clutched a wound on her arm, blood seeping from her mouth. Desperation filled her as she fought against the overwhelming odds, unwilling to succumb to death. She was the sole bearer of a hidden profession within her family, still needing to participate in the Young Talents Camp to revive her family's fortunes. As her strength waned, her hopes for survival dwindled. Her energy drained rapidly, rendering her unable to utilize her primary ability, speed, effectively. Overcome with despair, she wept, longing to return home and fearing the prospect of death. In that moment, Mu Hankyu observed several necromancers fleeing, prompting her to speculate whether her teammate had defeated the undead. She quickened her pace, reaching the end of the alley moments later. Suddenly, Little Nine's poisonous mist began to seep around the corner. Upon witnessing the powerful energy, she was both surprised and relieved, feeling a glimmer of hope that she might be saved if she held on a little longer. Unfortunately, her strength gave out at that moment, causing her to collapse to the ground. Propping herself up with both arms, she closed her eyes as blood dripped from her mouth, realizing the gravity of her situation. The necromancers closed in on her, readying themselves to attack. Panicking, she reached out her hand in desperation, pleading for help. Just then, Jiang arrived, his expression serious as he stared at her intently. Seeing that the necromancers were fleeing from Jiang, she was stunned. She extended her hand towards him, her expression filled with surprise and disbelief. She couldn't comprehend how he had become so strong or what was happening in that moment. The necromancers closed in on her, ready to deliver the final blow. Summoning the last of her strength, she extended her hand towards Jiang, pleading for his help. Jiang looked at her, his expression grave and contemplative, lost in silence. Just as the necromancers seized Mu Hankyu's arm, Jiang grasped her other arm and urged her to escape. She glanced at his arm with a bewildered expression, puzzled by the unfolding events. Summoning all his strength, Jiang shoved Mu Hankyu away, propelling her backwards just in time to save her from the necromancer's strike. As his other hand reached back, he fixed a piercing gaze on the necromancers and commanded her to leave and stop getting involved. She staggered backwards, breaking into a run, but suddenly stumbled and crashed to the ground. A few seconds later, propping herself up with one hand, she began to sit up, wiping her face with the other. With one eye closed and the other peering at Jiang Chen, she couldn't help but think he was completely insane. A surge of purple energy materialized, causing her expression to change drastically. Shocked, she could only wonder what was happening. Jiang then stretched his hand towards the necromancers, unleashing a horde of insects. The swarm rapidly closed in, tearing into the necromancers and shredding their bodies to pieces. Standing behind Jiang, Mu Hankyu found herself struck by how handsome he appeared. In a flash, the insects swarmed over the necromancers, killing and completely devouring them. As Jiang stood quietly, his body emanated Little Nine's poisonous mist. Mu Hankyu, now seated on the ground with both hands supporting her, stared at Jiang, questioning if he truly was just a worthless member of the creation class. Ji Gang had once confided in her that Jiang had dual classes. Now, as she witnessed his full power, she couldn't help but be mesmerized. Hand covering her mouth, her cheeks flushed a deep crimson. Her heart pounded, signaling a budding affection, though she tried to convince herself that it was merely the mist causing her to blush. 30 minutes later, the rest of the group managed to defeat the remaining necromancers and reassembled in the village. Chu Bulang leaned forward, resting his hands on his knees and gasping for breath, unable to shake the thought of how formidable the necromancers were. Meanwhile, Duan Feng rubbed his head in confusion, pondering the oddity of the situation. Since leaving home, he hadn't encountered another necromancer until now, and it all felt eerily strange to him. Gripping her magical staff with both hands, Xiaoqi turned to the group and asked Duan Feng if it was possible that Mu Hankyu possessed the power to control necromancers. They were equally uncertain if she had unlocked a hidden class, something that seemed out of character for her as well. Suddenly, Xiaoqi pointed to the side, her face lighting up with surprise. She drew everyone's attention to the signs of a recent struggle, indicating the traces of a battle. This indicated that the battle had just ended. Chubulang followed her gaze, feeling a bit bewildered by what he saw. Duanfeng also looked in the same direction, but his worry was focused on Jiang, uncertain of his condition. Nearby, the remnants of the necromancers lay scattered, shrouded in Little Nine's lingering poisonous mist. As they moved closer to the scene, Xiaoke, clutching her magical staff with one hand, stood in stunned silence at the sight of the necromancer remnants. Panic surged through Duanfeng. He urged the group to swiftly find Jiang, knowing that if anything had happened to him, none of them could bear the consequences. Following this, the trio split up and combed through the village in search of Jiang. Minutes later, they followed the signs and rounded a corner. What they encountered left them utterly stunned. Duanfeng was in disbelief, unable to trust his own eyes. Xiaoke was taken aback, trying to make sense of the scene unfolding before her. Ahead, they came upon a street with small stairs where Jiang sat, elbows on his knees and head propped on his hand. Beside him sat Mu Hanqiu, her fists clenched tightly as she sat behind him, gently massaging his back. Close by, scattered on the ground, lay additional remains of necromancers. Chu Bulang, positioned behind them, queried Duanfeng if the figure ahead was Jiang. Xiaoke then pointed upwards with a finger, eyes widening in surprise as she confirmed it was indeed Jiang. Duanfeng gazed at Jiang with a puzzled expression, urging the others to hold their positions, unsettled by the strangeness of the situation. He couldn't comprehend how the granddaughter of a king could be giving Jiang Chen a back massage as though she were a servant. He speculated that these two were likely illusions conjured by the realm's boss. Mu Hanqiu tightened her fists and continued massaging Jiang from behind. They both turned to see Duanfeng and the rest of the group approaching. Spotting their arrival, Jiang stood and gestured with his thumb, informing them that the boss was located in the village's backyard. Rather than feeling reassured, they shifted into a defensive position. Duanfeng retrieved his bow, his expression grave as he ordered everyone to stay still. Chu Bulang tightened both fists, readying himself to strike. Xiaoke gripped the magical staff firmly, fixing her gaze on Jiang, and requested an answer to their impending question. Upon hearing this, Jiang and Mu Hanqiu exchanged confused looks. Mu Hanqiu rose to her feet, positioned herself in front of Jiang, arms outstretched to either side, and stared at them sternly. She declared that if they intended to harm Jiang, they would have to go through her first. He gazed at her with a puzzled expression, questioning her actions and motives. Jiang gently placed a hand on her face, urging her to step aside. He positioned himself in front of her, closed his eyes, placed a hand over his chest, and smiled as he reassured Duanfeng that he understood their concerns. He assured everyone that he wasn't a monster, just endowed with a bit more charm. When they remained silent, he mentioned that their boss was named Ji Gang and praised Aunt Tang's cooking. Xiaoqi stepped closer, placing her hands on his chest, and inquired about any injuries. He touched his head, closed his eyes, and smiled warmly. Chu Bulang felt relieved to see that Jiang was indeed unharmed. Meanwhile, Duanfeng remained perplexed. Mu Hanqiu, standing behind Jiang, nervously clutched his cloak and blushed deeply. She pleaded with the others not to be upset with her, explaining that she was simply following orders. Jiang turned towards her, his expression filled with anger, and demanded that she speak the truth and stop deceiving them. Xiaoke was taken aback, surprised by his sudden intensity. Duanfeng chuckled to himself, impressed by Jiang's ability to assert himself with women. Chu Bulang also smiled, thinking Jiang was beyond hope in such matters. Jiang grew increasingly frustrated and shouted at them to stop. He then questioned their commitment to defeating the boss. In response, the others smiled and agreed, redirecting the conversation. After a while, they reached the village's backyard. Jiang, with a determined expression, delivered a powerful kick to the door, while the rest watched in silence. They pushed open the door and stepped into the backyard. Standing before them was the boss of the secret realm, massive in size with a menacing glare. It lowered its head slightly, fixing its gaze on Jiang. A system notification popped up, revealing that this boss was named the God of the Undead, ranked as a boss, and was level 40. Jiang lifted his head and fixed his gaze on the boss, deep in thought. Everyone else followed suit, their expressions filled with shock. With a serious and resolute demeanor, Duanfeng informed them that this formidable creature was the level 40 boss. He cautioned them to proceed carefully and announced that he would draw its attention first. He tasked Mu Hangqiu with guarding Jiang closely. Addressing Xiaoke, he reminded her to use her buff and warned her to watch out for the boss's attacks. They couldn't afford to be reckless. Safety was paramount as they engaged in combat. This was no mere game. They had to proceed with utmost caution. The boss gazed at them silently for a few moments before finally beginning to move. Observing this, Duanfeng cautioned the others to stay vigilant as it moved, instructing them to spread out. To everyone's astonishment, instead of launching an attack, the boss crouched down, rested its elbow on the ground, and bowed before them. Everyone stood in shock as the boss's body started to tremble. Duanfeng was bewildered, his expression filled with surprise as he tried to understand what was unfolding. Chu Bulang shared in the astonishment, puzzled by why the boss was suddenly pleading for forgiveness. Jiang took a decisive step forward, reaching out his hand towards the boss, and Little Nine's poisonous mist began to emanate from his body. With everyone injured, Jiang took charge and decided to deal with the boss himself. Recognizing the opportunity, he summoned Little Nine and signaled that it was time to act. Instantly, Little Nine transformed into the Insect Mother, opening its mouth wide to consume the boss. As the boss lifted its head and glanced to the side, it was struck with shock at the sight before it. Little Nine commenced devouring the boss, while Jiang maintained a calm silence, a smile spreading across his face. Several system notifications popped up, indicating that he had defeated the boss known as the God of the Undead. As a reward, the system granted him 76,690 experience points. Additionally, Little Nine transferred her 31,224 experience points to him. The experience points boosted him from level 25 to level 26, enhancing each of his attribute points and granting him 10 potential points. Little Nine swiftly devoured the boss, and her poisonous mist began to recede back into Jiang's body. Another system notification appeared, congratulating everyone on defeating the boss and successfully completing the secret realm known as the Village of the Undead. The system began to calculate the rewards. Upon realizing that Jiang had not only defeated the boss, but also eradicated all the necromancers in the village, Duanfeng and the others were astonished. Jiang rubbed the back of his head, closed his eyes, and with a strained smile, explained that it was a fortunate coincidence that his poison had the ability to eliminate the necromancers. The system completed its reward calculation, and a mission status window popped up. Duanfeng, at level 49, earned a C rank evaluation. Similarly, at level 49, the evaluation for the others was as follows. Jiang received an SSS rank, Xiaoqi a D rank at level 46, Mu Hangqiu an E rank at level 36. A medal materialized in the sky, startling everyone present. They had triumphantly conquered the Village of the Undead, a level 30 secret realm with nightmare difficulty, earning an SSS rank evaluation from the system. In recognition of their achievement, the system awarded them the Dead Soul Medal, a special item capable of absorbing one fatal attack when equipped. The item was bound to each of them individually, preventing it from being transferred or sold. Duanfeng couldn't hide his astonishment. The individual rewards were already impressive, and now they possessed an exceptionally advanced item. They had never received such rewards before, all thanks to their decision to follow Jiang. They had achieved victory effortlessly. As the top performer, he received numerous rewards: 2 books, a metal glove, a scroll, a crystal, a scythe, a necklace, a ring, and a shield. Crossing his arms, he examined the items before him and remarked, "No wonder this was a level 30 secret realm. The stakes were incredibly high." He quickly concluded that these items must be worth a fortune, possibly billions. One particular item caught his attention more than the others. The item was named the Invisibility Cape. It boasted platinum quality and bestowed 80 agility points and 50 energy points to its user. When worn, it allowed invisibility for 3 minutes with a 2-hour cooldown period. Jiang reached out for the invisibility cape, his expression filled with surprise, and made the decision to keep it. To Jiang, The cape was both practical and stylish, serving a useful purpose. Since the other items held little relevance for him, he planned to sell them upon his return and use the proceeds to procure pure blood for Little Nine. Suddenly, a portal materialized in the sky alongside a system notification. Due to the secret realm's mutation and their successful completion of the challenge, it was about to vanish. The system urgently instructed everyone to depart immediately. This time, the devour value had significantly increased, suggesting that with a bit more blood, the insects could reproduce again. As night descended, they returned to the Night's Watch headquarters. They briefed Jiang on the mutated secret realm. Jiang reported that he had led Mu Hankyu and played a pivotal role in clearing the realm. Upon hearing this, Jiang was visibly shocked. He instructed everyone to leave the office so he could speak privately with Jiang. Duanfeng, standing behind Jiang, nodded in understanding. Several minutes later, after everyone had cleared out, Duanfeng left Jiang alone with Jiang in the office. Jiang turned towards him with a serious expression, urging Jiang to confess and be honest, assuring him that doing so would lead to leniency. However, resisting would lead to severe consequences. Jiang felt a sense of confusion creeping in, his voice trembling as he asked Jiang what he meant by being honest. Jiang locked eyes with Jiang, knowing that Jiang had told the others about the Venom class's ability to counteract necromancers, but Jiang understood it was merely an excuse to deceive Duanfeng. The situation grew tense as Jiang suspected Jiang of misleading him and the others. His eyes gleamed with suspicion as he demanded Jiang tell the truth and reveal what he was hiding. Jiang stared back with a confused expression, unsure of what was unfolding. Sweat began to bead on his forehead, and in his mind, Little Nine appeared, equally fearful. He worried about the insects being discovered. They were an ancient celestial plague, and if their existence became known, he feared the consequences.